Hey gaming fans, so today I'm going to be talking about a couple of cards that just got lifted off the ban list. And that's Yata-Garasu, Time Seal, and Change of Heart. Now these cards have been around for a very long time, and they've been pretty much banned for a very long time. Yata-Garasu, for one, was one of those, I think it was even emergency banned, I think. But all of these had reasons for why they were banned, and now they don't seem like they're, that much of a threat to the meta. But let's look at each one and talk about whether these are worthy of being played in a deck, if anybody's going to play them. So anyways, let's start with Change of Heart. Now, Change of Heart is a favorite for a lot of people. A lot of people just love it for the artwork. It's a very simple effect. I mean, we got a lot of cards that kind of do that. You're essentially just stealing your opponent's monsters, which, or monster, I should say. But the thing about Change of Heart is it just takes any monster on your opponent's side of the field, whether it's face up or face down, and it'll let you do whatever you want with it. You can attack with it, you can sacrifice it, you could do whatever you want. Use it for a tribute summon, whatever. And then, so you think about, there's a lot of cards out there that kind of mimic that effect. And one of the cards that some people have talked about is Snatch Steal. Why is Change of Heart come back? Why not Snatch Steal? Apparently they did bring back Snatch Steal at some point in time, and then it got put right back on the list. The thing about Snatch Steal is it is an equip card, which makes it a lot easier to search with cards like Hidden Armory and Hidden Arsenal, I think it is, and there's a few other decks out there that can actually grab you the equip cards. The only downside to the equip cards are if somebody has like a face down Mystical Space Typhoon or Dust Tornado or something like that. But a lot of people don't really play those cards anymore. It's the same reason why we don't have Premature Burial over Monster Reborn. You would think that this is a weaker version of Monster Reborn, because it only targets your own graveyard. You have to pay 800 life points, and like I said, with Snatch Steal, it can be destroyed easily. However, it is highly searchable, so there's probably a reason why we were not getting back Premature Burial. But Change of Heart, interesting enough, is a card that's so versatile that if you do draw it, you can change the tide. I mean, you do get to steal your opponent's monster. You do get to attack with it. I mean, there are other cards like Brain Control, which exist. This ended up getting its own errata, where it has to be a normal summoned monster. So it pretty much killed Brain Control. And nobody's going to play this because most normal summoned monsters don't last very long on the field. I mean, you usually use your normal summon, and then you're going to go into some kind of Link summon or Synchro or some other play on some special summon monster. So this isn't going to really do anything. So they really just killed this card. We did have Mind Control, which again, it's okay. I mean, this is your kind of fixed up version of Change of Heart, in that it does almost the same thing, except you cannot attack with it, and it cannot be tributed for anything. So I mean, this card was kind of useless when it came out. Nobody really played it until we started getting into Synchro and Xyz and stuff like that, where you can actually do something with the monster. And then they kind of, I think at that point they banned it or they limited it. I can't remember now. But I know they did something with this card. And eventually, it's been in and off the ban list, periodically. And a little bit more of a recent card, we also have Crackdown, which is a trap, a continuous trap. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls, so it can't be face down. Take control of that monster, and then while you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate effects. And if the monster leaves the field, you destroy this card. So you can tribute the monster. I mean, so you could steal it and tribute it. And you could just take their monster and stop them from being able to use it. But other than that, you can't really do a whole lot. I guess you could Synchro and Xyz with it too. The problem is, it is a trap. Traps are a lot slower. A lot of people, don't play a lot of traps, so when they do, the trap really has to count. So I don't know if anybody, certain decks like the Frog deck, the Paleozoic Frog deck uses Crackdown sometimes, and a few other decks. I like to probably use it in, the Uria, Lord of the Searing Flames deck. I'll probably end up building a deck with that one day. So let's move on to Time Seal. this was an interesting one to see off the list. And I don't know. I think it's probably not going to, do anything. And I don't think there's any reason why it shouldn't even be at why it's only at 1. It should be at 3. I guess they like to test the waters when they do this and only bring it to 1 just to make sure they don't, could destroy the game. But it's a very slow card. I mean, you have to activate it. You have to set it, and then you have to activate it on your opponent's turn. And then after that, their next turn, they skip their draw phase. So it really takes about 3 turns to do anything. I know there's a loop with this this one here, Mask of Darkness. Now, myself being more into the older style decks, and I play a lot of GOAT format, build a lot of GOAT format decks. So this is a deck that exists in GOAT format where you play Mask of Darkness, and then you can activate the Time Seal, stop your opponent from drawing, flip over your Mask of Darkness, return Time Seal back to your hand, play Tsukayumi, flip them back down, and, wash, rinse, repeat. And, that could be okay, but in GOAT format, it's a much slower format. You don't have 1 turn to have to kill your opponent. So, combos like this can actually work. But we also have other cards that are similar to Time Seal, like Drop Off, which, in a sense, is a similar idea. When your opponent draws for their normal draw, they discard the card they just drew. Now, the better thing about this card is that it's right away, so you could set it on your turn, your opponent draws, they discard the card. Time Seal, it's not going to work that way. They already draw their card by the time you activate you're able to activate Time Seal, so it's not going to matter at that point. Problem is, though, in this metagame, people like having stuff in the graveyard, so Drop-Off really didn't do anything. Nobody's going to waste their deck space for Drop-Off. And I think the same logic is going to apply with Time Seal. Nobody's going to waste their time trying to get you to prevent you from drawing a card for 1 turn, especially if there's only 1 Time Seal. And who's going to play things like this in today's meta? They're just not. So I don't think it's really going to do anything. And then the last card is a big fan favorite, and that's Yata-Garasu. I did a video on this. I think I did a video on this a while ago. Talking about, should it come back, and would anybody play it? And I think the answer is still going to be no. I don't know if anybody's going to really play Yata-Garasu. Why would you? I mean, you can. It's sort of like the Time Seal thing. It does take quite a bit of setup. Your opponent can't have anything in the way because he's only 200 attack. So you'll have to wipe out their field with a Raigeki or something like that. And then you have to attack hoping that your opponent doesn't have something like this. Effect Veiler, which would shut him down. And in fact, Effect Veiler would be awful because I think he would end up staying on the field because his effect is negated. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below, but I believe if you Effect Veiler a spirit monster, he won't return to the hand, which means he's open prey for any monster your opponent summons pretty much with 200 or more attack is going to take him down. Back when Yata-Garasu was relevant, when his deck existed where you could actually shut your opponent down, these didn't exist. We didn't have cards like this. We didn't have any kind of card that negated a monster. So you pretty much were screwed if your opponent got rid of your monsters and attacked with Yata. You had whatever was in your hand and that was it. If you could not stop your opponent, you were going to lose. So that was a much different time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Things have drastically changed since then. And I don't know if he's going to warrant a deck space. I mean, how often is your opponent going to be without cards in their hand or have a field of nothing that you're just going to be able to attack with this guy? We don't know. I mean, unless someone comes up with some crazy combos. The only card I could see being used in this format would be Change of Heart. Just because it's just powerful enough you could just steal any monster and use it. I could see Monarch decks taking advantage of this card. There's probably a lot of decks that could probably slot this card in and take advantage of it. Anyways, that was just my take on this new ban list of, hopefully they do a little bit more. They bring a little bit more cards back. I like seeing these old cards come back, and I'd like to see a lot more come back. I think we can, hopefully they don't go in errata of them all, but, we can bring back some of these old cards and have some fun. Anyways, let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. I always like to hear what you have to say. Maybe even throw some suggestions of what cards you would like to see come back. And I know a lot of people always goof around and say they want to see cards like Pot of Greed come back. We know that ain't going to happen. I mean, come on, Pot of Greed. But there's a lot of other cards that might be able to come back. Maybe things like Delinquent Duo. Would anybody actually play that card if it was legal? You know, that type of thing. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.